Why does so much of the public have so little respect for the press? Well, there are a lot of reasons, including a tendency to grill people who clearly don't want to talk. Case in point, NBC correspondent Mike Vaquera's failed attempt to interview special counsel Robert Mueller as he left church. Adam has more.
Some breaking news for you this morning. Special counsel Robert Mueller was just spotted this morning coming out of church.
And Mike Vaquera was on it, catching Mueller on Easter Sunday and trying to get him to talk publicly for the first time in 2 years.
Sir, could I ask you a couple of questions? Will you testify before Congress, sir?
No comment.
Are you sure about that, sir? If he were anybody but the president, would Mr. Trump be indicted, sir? Sir, why didn't you make a recommendation to Congress one way or the other, sir?
Are you going on vacation at least somewhere?
Did the Attorney General accurately characterize your positions on conspiracy and obstruction, sir?
Afterward, MSNBC host Joy Reid made it clear she was impressed.
Because that is exactly what I think the American people want to know. Mike Vaquera, the MVP this morning.
Elsewhere, though, Vaquera's performance was panned as a stupid, shameless ambush. The Poynter Institute accused MSNBC of creating breaking news that was no news. Even Vaquera seemed a bit sheepish about his approach.
Tried to be as respectful as possible. This is, some people would characterize as an ambush interview of a man coming out of Easter services at church.
There.
Some passersby weren't happy that we were...
Later, though, he was less contrite, telling Poynter, whether it's Easter Sunday or Wednesday outside an office building, if a newsmaker is in our sight, we ask them questions. And apparently, we don't take no comment for an answer.
All right, Adam, hotspot, would you have done that? I have to say, I would have had a hard time doing that. The pictures is one thing. And I thought he asked too many questions.
Yeah.
It was like he was bragging about what he knew. He was never
he had a list of questions he wanted to run through, and he was going to keep going until he got through to the end. Our editor, who makes these pieces, who people never see on the show, Dan Watson, he made a great point when he was working on this. He said, after the first couple questions, wouldn't you switch gears and say something like, okay, I understand that you're not going to get into this now, but do you expect to speak about these things down the road? Or just something. He's given you the response, the no comment. So try something else, mix it up a little bit. I don't think I would have done it, and I would not have been comfortable in that situation myself.
I don't have a problem with it. I say go, Mike. He was outside Easter Sunday service. It wasn't outside a family funeral, so I don't have a problem with it. I think that his non-answer was an answer, and you're asking questions of a guy who hasn't spoken for 2 years. What I had a bigger problem was the interchange afterward, the self-congratulating on the part of the anchor.
MVP?
I mean, so what? You asked all these good questions. She also said we didn't see that. That's your job, to ask questions. And then he laughed about it, and then he called it a stakeout. I think all those things. I mean, maybe journalists understand a stakeout, but when you say stakeout in a live shot, the public generally doesn't understand that term, and I think it connotes a more aggressiveness. And I also think I was wondering more about Robert Mueller, how he's going to get out of that small space. I mean, there was no room. There's no room. He couldn't get out.
I had no problem with approaching him. I thought the tone was all wrong. You walk up to him and said, Mr. Mueller, would you be willing to answer a few questions? And when he says no, that's it. It's over.
Well, I'm kind of with Mike and Dan on that. Robert Mueller he's a grown-up. He knows this situation. He easily could have turned and said to him, "Happy Easter, Mike. This is not the right moment, but I won't have any comment. Have a great day." And he could have gone.
He could have ended it.
He could have ended it, and it could have been extremely cordial. That probably would have gone on the air, but it would have been positive. Would have been a plus. I do think that I agree with you, Dan, and maybe this comes from my background as a print reporter. The idea of walking up with the camera behind you and the microphones out, that does have the look of the ambush, and I think that makes a lot of people do see that.
I mean, there have been some pictures of Robert Mueller in the last few years, even some video. He's been caught. So was this worthy of putting on TV?
Well, I'd have gone up with the camera. I wasn't bothered by that. But the first thing should have been, Mr. Mueller, are you willing to answer a few questions? Instead of immediately banging away with, are you going to testify before Congress? I mean, it was ridiculous.
Well, Emily, we were talking about this, you and I, earlier. The video itself becomes the product, right? It's not what Mueller said or didn't say, because he didn't say anything there.
Exactly.
But it is, here is Mueller on tape not answering the questions that our reporter is doggedly asking him, and then you can roll that again and again. That becomes the end in itself rather than any information you're getting, which is a sad reality of TV.
Again, sometimes news is uncomfortable. It doesn't make it wrong what happened there. It's just uncomfortable sometimes. And I think Mueller could have, I think you made a good point. I think Mueller could have handled it better by saying, you know, I'm sorry, I can't comment on that right now, instead of just no comment. When you say no comment, reporters bore in.
Exactly.